a syringe with a needle on it and liquid within that syringe.
Among the remnants near Caylee Anthony's remains, a suspicious syringe stashed inside a Gatorade bottle, tested for traces of chloroform.
Within the Gatorade bottle liquid, the one that could have come from some type of cleaning material, low amounts of chloroform. When analyzing the doll, there were indications of that chloroform may be present.
And Caylee's favorite doll, the one that smelled like death, left behind in Casey's car, was also contaminated with chloroform? What does that mean for Casey's defense? Plus,
is that fair to say you had an affair with George Anthony?
Yes.
George Anthony's alleged mistress subpoenaed to testify for the defense, revealing a powerful story of George in tears, crying in her arms, confiding to her exactly what happened.
It was an accident that snowballed out of control.
And he said it was an accident that snowballed out of control.
I want to hear from you. It's our question of the day. What do you think of the allegations made by the alleged mistress? Now's the time to call me, 1-877-TELL-HLN.
Controversy, opinion, point of view. This is Prime News.
Good evening. I'm Vinny Politan, live in Orlando, Florida, in front of the Orange County Courthouse. Welcome to Prime News, day 25 in the Casey Anthony murder trial, and a day that was a little bit shorter than other days. Why? Well, Judge Belvin Perry, he's a big deal down here, and he's in charge of a board that takes care of the finances for all the court systems, and he had a big meeting he couldn't get out of. So court ended at noon. But in the morning, more forensics today. We're talking about hair. We're talking about soil. Another one of the Oak Ridge boys, or former Oak Ridge boys, showed up in court today to testify. Some chemistry in front of these jurors. But none of that really was the biggest moment of the day. That's because, and today's biggest moment of the day may not really impact this case greatly, but I think it may impact you. It's definitely impacting the folks on all the social media out there who for weeks have been tweeting me, Facebooking me, emailing me about the syringe, about the chloroform, all inside this Gatorade bottle that was found near Caylee's remains. My goodness, people saying, when is this evidence coming in? What does it mean? How powerful is it? Is the prosecution saving it for the rebuttal case? Is that going to be the big finish? Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, it's my gift to you. The biggest moment of the day may not impact this trial greatly, but it will impact you and everything you've been saying and tweeting and wondering about the syringe and the chloroform inside that Gatorade bottle.
Dr. Rickenbach, you also, I'd like to refer you to your report back in July dealing with the Gatorade bottle and the substance that was inside of it. Do you recall those items?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what were you asked to do in that report?
In the Gatorade bottle that was submitted, there was an unknown liquid within that bottle. Also, there was a syringe with a needle, and there was liquid within that syringe. I was asked to identify, or try to identify, what the liquid and the two liquids were. The liquid within the Gatorade bottle was a whitish, murky kind of liquid. While it was not fully identified, it could have come from some kind of type of cleaning product or cleaning product added to it. Additionally, a mixture of testosterone compounds were identified within that matrix.
And did you find a syringe as well?
There was a syringe with a needle on it within that bottle, yes.
And did you believe the syringe to contain, or did you find the syringe to contain testosterone?
There were, within the liquid of the syringe was an oily kind of liquid, yellowish oily liquid, and within that, same testosterone compounds were identified.
Now, in this liquidy substance, what instrument did you use to detect these items?
The testosterone compounds?
Yes.
There was a technique called gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and time of flight mass spectrometry, which was used to identify those compounds.
And in this liquid, did you also detect very low levels of chloroform as well?
Within the Gatorade bottle liquid, the one that could have come from some type of cleaning material, low amounts of chloroform were possibly present, but they were very small amounts.
And the reason you did not report those out is because, of course, they were at such low levels and because they could have come from the cleaning product.
This is correct.
All right, folks, does that answer your questions? Does that make it any clearer how important this evidence is or is not? The syringe, the chloroform, the Gatorade bottle found right near Kaylee's remains. Joining me tonight in Orlando, the Honorable Alex Ferrer, host of the syndicated Judge Alex Show. Also with me, criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler. And rounding out our panel tonight is attorney Tanya Acker, who joins us tonight in New York. Great to see everyone. All right, Meg, I'm going to start with you on this one. The Gatorade bottle, a syringe, chloroform, in light of what we know about the trunk of the car, the theory of the prosecution, many people wondering, is this the big piece of evidence because it's found near the remains?
You could argue it's a big piece of evidence. I don't really know what's going on when you have Jose Baez bringing it out.
Because Jose Baez is bringing it out, yeah.
Yes.
So.
But he's bringing, a lot of times when there's big evidence that the defense has, they want to mutate. They bring it out kind of saying, well, there was a syringe there, that's all that was there, and kind of make it not sound very big. And so if I want to compliment Jose Baez, perhaps that's what he's doing by making it sound like a big deal. He did a daggone good job of that today by just bringing it out, mentioning it, okay, let's move on. But I think it was not on purpose.
Yeah. What, do you think this has anything to do with the case, Judge? You're a former police officer, too. Does this tell you, is this some sort of clue? Is it possible this syringe was used?
My gut feeling is that area is a dump. Somebody in the neighborhood is juicing, using steroids, and threw the syringe and the bottle into the dump area. It has nothing to do with the case, because I don't see how it fits into the accidental drowning theory. And it doesn't fit into the state's murder theory, and if it did, certainly Baez wouldn't have brought it up. And I'm not really sure where he's going with it. It seems like he throws anything out there. He's got the drowning defense, but he's throwing out there anything to try to create a doubt. It's kind of like, I call it the ABC defense. Anybody but Casey. We'll throw dirt on George and on Crunk and on the cops and on the dogs. And on
coyotes.
The coyotes.
And coyotes. And there are coyotes in Florida.
Yeah, we found that out. We were laughing.
Coyotes are in Florida. We want to correct last night's program.
I got a million tweets about it.
We got tons. I don't know. They're not here, though. They're not near the courthouse.
The Gators ate them here.
The Gators ate all the ones in Orlando. All right, Tanya Acker, let's not even get into why it was brought up at this point, but do you think that the jury does anything with this? Does the jury take this syringe and this trace amounts of chloroform in the syringe and perhaps on their own put it all together somehow?
Well, see, if that's what Baez is expecting the jury to do, then that's a big mistake. The jury's job is not to try to put together disconnected pieces of evidence and tell a story. The jury's job is to digest the story that's been presented to them into some coherent narrative and then render a verdict. I don't know what this evidence means. I don't know what Baez wants the evidence to mean.
I don't know what it means either.
And I think that's a problem. And I think that's a problem, frankly.
And here's the thing. I think I am most aligned with Judge Alex on this one, not just because he's Judge Alex, but because I've been to that area and I've seen how much garbage. And unfortunately, there's a school at the end of the street. It's if school isn't in session, no one's traveling up and down that street. So people come by, they can stop in the middle of the day and dump their garbage on the side and nobody will see them. Nobody will say anything. So I tend to think that it's just one of those red herring pieces of garbage that just ended up there. But we'll see what both sets of attorneys do with it. And now you've got it as well, folks. Now, if you want to stay on top of all the details here, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'm in Orlando. That's why I'm here, so I can tweet for you. That's why I'm here. I mean, I could do the show back in the studio in Georgia, but I'm here so I can tweet for you. I'll let you know when the verdict is. I'll let you know when Casey Anthony takes the stand, when Roy Kronk takes the stand. I'll let you know when Crystal Holloway, the alleged mistress, takes the stand. As soon as that is uttered, those names are uttered in the courtroom, I'll tweet it so you can find a TV and follow along all the action here on HLN. Now, another development in this case that everyone's talking about, I just talked about it. The woman who claims she is a former mistress of George Anthony. She says George talked to her about what happened to Kaylee. Well, she's been subpoenaed to testify.
Is that fair to say you had an affair with George Anthony?
Yes.
An intimate affair?
Intimate affair.
But when the investigators asked you about it, you denied it.
I did.
Why?
Well, I figured I could tell them everything without having to tell them that.
Is that fair to say you had an affair with George Anthony?
Yes.
An intimate affair?
Intimate affair.
But when the investigators asked you about it, you denied it.
I did.
Why?
Well, I figured I could tell them everything without having to tell them that.
What did George tell you about that?
That it was an accident that snowballed out of control.
And he said it was an accident that snowballed out of control.
How about Jose Baez with a direct quote from the alleged mistress during his opening statement? That tells me this woman's testifying. I mean, she was in the courthouse yesterday, so she's been subpoenaed. She's going to show up. She's ready, willing, and able to say all these things. I also want to point out that all this stuff's been denied by George Anthony. I've got a statement from Mark Lippman, George Anthony's attorney, denies the affair, denies ever talking to her about anything. So everything she says, George Anthony's going to say did not happen. My guests are back with me. First of all, Judge Alex, if this mistress gets up on the stand and starts talking, I mean, I know those jurors are going to, if they were falling asleep during all the expert stuff, they're going to wake up, right? They're going to pay attention. She becomes a very important witness.
Absolutely. This is not the strips on a DNA tape. Absolutely. If that testimony comes in, it's going to grab their attention. It's going to be very important, and it's going to really depend on him to get on the stand and explain it, deny it, explain what he meant, or whatever.
And explain the relationship, because there's apparently some text messages. Let's take a look now at Crystal Holloway. She's speaking to a reporter from our affiliate, WKMG, Tony Pipitone. Take a listen to get a feel for who this woman is, and what she's talking about here, what type of information she has.
They became close. They started dating, or they had an affair, whatever you want to call it.
I was a little pissed.
Why?
Because he's trying to use me again, like as a scapegoat.
Is that fair to say you had an affair with George Anthony?
Yes.
An intimate affair?
Intimate affair.
But when the investigators asked you about it, you denied it.
I did.
Why?
Well, I figured I could tell them everything without having to tell them that.
So originally she denies the affair. How much is that going to impact this jury believing that she has this intimate relationship with George Anthony?
That kind of hurts because she did it
Kinda? That she lied to police?
Well, she says in the interview with the TV person that she didn't really feel that it was important to talk about a personal affair. I'm trying to come up with a reason here. I don't think it's going to work out too well. I do think that Baez is trying to put the boring experts early on so that at the end of the trial, at the end, we bring out the bangs. And I do think she's going to testify tomorrow. I was kind of hoping she'd testify today at the end, right before a half day, so they'd have a half day to ponder some juicy stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yet we didn't end on a bang today.
Now let's take a listen to Jose Baez in his opening statement here, because he spoke about this woman, Crystal Holloway. I think she goes by another name also, River Cruz. But here talking about money that she gave to George Anthony.
Crystal Holloway gave him money so he could pretend he was working. Cindy thought he was working. But you're only here about Casey's fake job, not about George's fake job.
All right, you've got the alleged mistress now, Judge Alex, saying she's giving money to George Anthony. That sounds...
He's supposed to be the sugar daddy. She's not supposed to be feeding him.
What's going on here?
Well, apparently, I'm the only one who's working, because nobody in this case is working. I will tell you this, though. I will tell you this. I said yesterday I thought this evidence was going to come in because of this case I thought about that relaxed the evidence rules in the death penalty case. Later on, I realized the case I was thinking about was in the penalty phase, not the guilt phase.
Not the guilt phase.
So I'm not sure it comes in because it's clear hearsay, and I don't think it goes to impeach anything that he has said. If he had said to her, if he had said on the stand, my daughter killed her daughter, my granddaughter, then this would come in as impeachment because he told someone else it was an accident.
Right.
But he never said that. All he said was I think they asked him, were you home when the accidental drowning allegedly occurred? And he said, no, if I'd been there, we wouldn't be here. That doesn't really impeach him. So I'm now believing it's not going to come in at all.
Tanya, I want you to take a listen to more of Jose Baez again during his opening statement here, talking about what this mistress or alleged mistress is going to say.
And Crystal Holloway will tell you that one day they had a conversation, her and George Anthony. And George began to break down and cry. And she asked him, what happened to Kaylee? And he said, it was an accident that snowballed out of control.
All right, Tanya, let's presume that Judge Alex is overruled and this stuff is coming in. What's the impact that these types of statements have on this jury in this case?
Well, it's horrible for the prosecution because, remember, it is their burden to prove that Casey Anthony did this. And to the extent that the defense can create a specter of alternatives, to the extent that they can throw out other boogeymen, maybe get some veracity or get some meat behind this story about the father being the terrible person, which, by the way, they've done very little on thus far. So to the extent that they can raise those sorts of questions, then Baez is in the position at closing of saying they have not done what they said they were going to do. And remember, Baez has set himself a very high burden by making all of these allegations about George Anthony and the abuse. He's not proven those things. He's not done anything to tell more of that story. But to the extent that he can impugn his credibility, it hurts the prosecution very badly, I think.
I want you to take a listen to more of her story because it gets very specific about what George Anthony allegedly did to Casey Anthony. Listen to this.
He threw her up against the wall and choked her.
Okay. Do you know why he threw her up against the wall and choked her?
Because he said, I know you killed her. What did you do with her? And he choked her, and Cindy had to get George off of Casey.
How about that? George Anthony's choking Casey Anthony. We're going to talk a lot more about this wild card witness. We're going to take your phone calls, 877-TEL-HLN tonight. This is it. This could be a game changer for the defense. They need something, don't they, folks?
I don't believe that George picked the body up like they said. I think it was an accident.
What did George tell you about that?
That it was an accident that snowballed out of control.
What happens if this woman comes inside the courtroom and tells the jury that George Anthony told her it was an accident that just snowballed out of control? Judge Alex, Meg Strickler back with me. Also joining me now, my colleague Mike Galanos, anchor of HLN News Now. Mike, what do you think that does to this jury, to this case, to everyone inside that courtroom if she gets up on the stand and starts saying these things?
Well, I'll say this. I think Jeff Ashton would have a field day with Crystal Holloway or River Cruz. Vinny, I had a chance to talk to Brad Conway, the former attorney for George and Cindy Anthony, and he intimated, don't believe her, and compared her to Casey Anthony. She's got a sister. Her name is Cecilia Holloway. Her alias, Sky Benheda. Brad Conway told me he tried to do some background checks on these ladies, several aliases. One more note, and this thanks to our colleague Tony Pipitone, who's done some great reporting. He's got a real line on these ladies. 2009, Cecilia Holloway, Crystal's sister, wrote a letter to a judge calling Crystal Holloway a liar. I'll go back to the boxing analogy. Think a young Mike Tyson charging across the ring. I think that's Jeff Ashton coming at Crystal Holloway. That's what I think. Let me throw that out there.
Let's go to Kelly, who's in Canada tonight. Good evening, Kelly. What do you think of Crystal Holloway, the alleged mistress?
Well, I think it'll be a big mistake if they put her on the stand because you can tell by her body behaviors that she is lying.
You're not believing her?
No, not at all. You can tell by her behaviors, just the way no eye contact. And when she is asked the question about the affair, she automatically turns away. She looks every direction, and she's very nervous.
Yeah. Meg Strickler, do you think she has a chance? I mean, do you want to do this as a defense attorney, just throw things out there and stir the pot and make things go a little mad?
You're making my stomach drop when you say that. When I try a case, I want to know what my witnesses are going to say. I prepare them. I even come up with facial things, and I do this. If they're doing the wrong thing, I come up with, some different ways of telling my witness, shh, or succinct answer, whatnot. And it seems to me if he brings this woman up and hasn't done a criminal background on her, hasn't done any background with respect to talking to family members, whatnot, not knowing certain things about her, she will be impeached and she will be beaten down like Mike Tyson would in a ring. I agree with that. You know, you got to be careful here.
It'll be a thriller in Orlando. She has another name, River Cruz. That's always a problem, right?
Yeah. That was the name actually I was going to adopt. I'm a little offended she took it. I don't necessarily think she's telling a lie. I could see
maybe part truth.
No, I could really see. I mean, look, let's face it. He attempted suicide. I mean, how difficult must it be to have your daughter on trial for the murder of your granddaughter? I could see him telling people. What are you going to say when they say, "Is it true? Did your daughter really kill your granddaughter?" No, it was an accident. I mean, I could see him saying that, and that might have been the genesis for the defense.
All right, now, here's a big question. Will the prosecution be able to sway all 12 jurors? Well, an upcoming edition of People magazine explores the question of whether there may be enough doubt for Casey to go free. We're going to break it down next.